Instructor Vex-9 clicked his mandibles in what humans would call amusement as he watched the latest batch of primitive bipeds shuffle into Combat Training Hall 7. These creatures, these humans, were supposedly the newest addition to the Galactic Defense Academy. What a joke. "Listen up, meat sacks!" Vex-9's voice boomed through his vocal amplifier, causing several humans to wince. His 6 eyes focused on the pathetic specimens before him. Tall, short, various skin tones, all equally fragile-looking. "I am Instructor Vex-9, and for the next 6 cycles, I will attempt the impossible task of turning you walking disasters into something resembling soldiers." The humans stood in formation, or what passed for formation among their kind. Vex-9 had trained over 40 different species in his 300-year career. The mighty Corvani warriors, the swift Zelthak hunters, even the notorious Grim battle clones, all had shown him proper respect. These humans! They just stared. One female standing near the front caught his attention. Average height for her species, brown hair tied back in what humans called a ponytail, green eyes that seemed to be studying him rather than showing appropriate fear. Her name tag read Martinez. "You, Martinez." Vex-9 pointed one of his 4 arms at her. "What makes you think you belong here?" Martinez shifted her weight slightly, hands clasped behind her back. "Sir, I passed the entrance examinations like everyone else." Vex-9's mandibles clicked again. The audacity. Entrance examinations. Just one thing before we begin. YouTube tells me 94.3% of you watching aren't subscribed. Subscribing is free. It really supports the channel, and you'll get more amazing HFY sci-fi stories delivered straight to you. Don't miss out. He moved closer, his massive form casting a shadow over her. At 8 feet tall, with his exoskeleton gleaming under the training hall lights, he was an intimidating sight. Those tests were designed for real warriors, not for soft-skinned weaklings who probably cry when they break a nail. A few snickers came from other human recruits. Martinez's expression didn't change. "Do you know what happened to the last human who tried to sass me, Martinez?" Vex-9 leaned down, bringing his face closer to hers. His breath smelled like sulfur and rotting fish. "I imagine they graduated, sir," Martinez replied calmly, "since I see other humans in advanced classes throughout the academy." The training hall fell silent except for the hum of gravity generators. Vex-9 straightened to his full height, all 6 eyes narrowing. In his decades of training recruits, no one had ever responded to his intimidation tactics with such confidence. "Oh, we have a comedian!" Vex-9's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How delightful! Tell me, Martinez, what's your specialty? Comic relief?" "Hand-to-hand combat and tactical analysis, sir." Vex-9's secondary arms gestured dismissively. "Hand-to-hand combat? You barely come up to my chest plate. I could step on you by accident and not even notice the mess." Martinez tilted her head slightly. "With respect, sir, size isn't everything in combat." Several humans exchanged glances. Even they seemed surprised by Martinez's boldness. Vex-9 began pacing in front of the formation, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. "Let me explain something to all of you pathetic excuses for sentient life." His voice took on a lecturing tone. "The galaxy is filled with species that could tear you apart without breaking a sweat. The Corvani have natural armor plating and can lift 3 tons. The Zelthak move faster than your eyes can track. The Grim are literally bred for war." He stopped pacing and faced them directly. "And then there's you. Humans. No natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced speed or strength. Your species hasn't even conquered your own solar system yet. You're basically walking snacks for real predators." A human near the back, his name tag reading Thompson, raised his hand tentatively. "What?" Vex-9 snapped. "Sir, if we're so useless, why were we accepted into the academy?" Vex-9's mandibles spread in what might have been a grin. "Excellent question, Thompson. You were accepted because the Galactic Council believes in equal opportunity. Every species gets a chance to prove themselves, no matter how hopeless that chance might be. Think of it as charitable work." Martinez's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "In fact," Vex-9 continued, warming to his subject, "humans have quite the reputation in certain circles. You're known for being emotional, irrational, and prone to panic under pressure. There's actually a betting pool among the instructors about how long it takes before one of you has a complete breakdown." "What's the current favorite?" Martinez asked quietly. Vex-9's head swiveled toward her, all 6 eyes focusing like targeting systems. "Excuse me?" "The betting pool, sir." "What's the current prediction for our breakdown timeline?" The silence in the training hall was deafening. Other instructors, members of various species, had begun gathering at the observation windows above. Word was spreading that something interesting was happening in Hall 7. 2 days, Vex-9 replied, his voice dangerously low. "The smart money says you humans won't last 2 days before someone cracks." Martinez nodded thoughtfully. "That seems optimistic." "What did you say?" "Well, sir, if we're as pathetic as you describe, shouldn't we have broken down already? I mean, we've been here for 4 hours, listening to you explain how inferior we are. By your logic, we should be crying heaps on the floor by now." Vex-9's exoskeleton began to flush a darker color, a sign of rising anger in his species. "Are you questioning my assessment, recruit?" "Not questioning, sir. Just making an observation." "And what observation is that?" Martinez glanced around at her fellow humans, all of whom were still standing at attention despite the verbal assault they'd endured. "We're still here." The observation windows above were now crowded with instructors and advanced students from multiple species, all watching the exchange with fascination. This was unprecedented. Vex-9 took a step closer to Martinez. "Let me share another observation with you, human. In my 3 centuries of training recruits, I have broken every single species that has passed through this hall. Corvani warriors who could crush tanks with their bare hands have left here in tears. Zeltak hunters who could kill a dozen enemies before breakfast have begged to transfer out. I am very, very good at what I do." "I'm sure you are, sir." "Then perhaps you'd like to explain why you seem so unimpressed?" Martinez was quiet for a long moment, considering her words carefully. When she spoke, her voice was steady and respectful, but there was something underneath it that made Vex-9's sensory organs tingle with unease. "Sir, with respect, you're trying to intimidate us by telling us we're weak compared to other species. But the thing is—" She paused, meeting his gaze with those unsettling green eyes. "We already know that." "What?" "Humans have always known we're not the strongest or fastest or toughest. We figured that out pretty early in our development. Every predator on our homeworld was bigger, faster, or had better natural weapons than us. We survived anyway." Vex-9's mandibles stopped clicking. This wasn't going according to script. Martinez continued, her voice gaining confidence. "You want to scare us by describing the Corvani armor and strength?" "Sir, we had creatures on Earth that made the Corvani look like house pets. Ever heard of a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Or a saber-toothed tiger? Or a giant squid? We didn't have armor, or claws, or enhanced anything. We had pointy sticks and determination. That's completely different. Is it, sir? You mentioned the Zelthak speed. Well, we had cheetahs that could hit 70 miles per hour. We had peregrine falcons diving at over 200 miles per hour. We dealt with them, too. The other humans were beginning to straighten up, subtle smiles appearing on their faces as they realized where Martinez was going with this. The grim are bred for war? Martinez's tone was becoming almost conversational. Sir, we've been breeding ourselves for war for thousands of years. We call it natural selection, and it's been running continuously since day one. Every human standing here is the descendant of thousands of generations of survivors who refused to quit when things got bad. Vex-9 felt something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. You're oversimplifying. Am I, sir? You said humans are emotional and irrational. That's absolutely true. Do you know what emotional and irrational creatures do when you push them too hard? The training hall had gone completely silent. Even the observers above had stopped murmuring. They do very stupid, very dangerous things, Martinez continued. They charge machine gun nests to save their friends. They fight overwhelming odds because someone told them they couldn't win. They refuse to surrender even when surrender is the logical choice. Vex-9's secondary arms began twitching, a nervous habit he thought he'd outgrown centuries ago. You mentioned that we haven't conquered our own solar system yet, Martinez said. That's true. We've been a little busy conquering ourselves. We've been at war continuously for our entire recorded history. Not little skirmishes, sir. Total wars. Wars that consumed entire continents and lasted for years. And we kept getting better at it. Thompson, the human who'd asked the earlier question, spoke up. Sir, if I may add something? Vex-9 turned his attention to Thompson, grateful for the distraction from Martinez's unsettling monologue. What? My great-grandfather fought in something called World War II. 50 million humans died in that conflict. 50 million. And you know what we did afterward? What? We built bigger bombs. Martinez nodded approvingly at Thompson's contribution. The instructor mentioned that we're basically walking snacks for real predators. He's not wrong, but he's missing something important. Which is? Martinez's smile was small and cold. Sometimes the snacks bite back. Vex-9's 6 eyes were beginning to widen as the implications of what he was hearing sank in. This wasn't how the intimidation session was supposed to go. The humans should be cowering by now, not giving him lectures on their species' history of violence. You're trying to frighten us with descriptions of superior alien species, Martinez continued. But, sir, with all due respect, you have no idea what you're dealing with. I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Vex-9's voice rose to a shout. You're primitives, barbarians. You haven't even achieved basic spaceflight without help. You're right, we are barbarians, Martinez agreed cheerfully. That's the point. You've been training civilized species. Species that follow rules and understand concepts like impossible odds and hopeless situations. We don't. Another human, a tall blonde woman whose name tag read Wilson, spoke up. Sir, may I ask what your previous students did when you told them they were inferior? They accepted it. They acknowledged the truth and worked within their limitations. Ah, Wilson nodded. See, that's where we're different. When someone tells a human they're inferior, we tend to take it personally. Martinez picked up the thread again. Sir, you've been trying to break our morale by explaining how outclassed we are. But humans don't break easily. We've been the underdogs for our entire evolutionary history. Being outclassed is our natural state. This is ridiculous, Vex-9 muttered. Is it? Let me tell you what's going to happen over the next 6 cycles, sir. You're going to keep trying to intimidate us. You're going to design training exercises that should be impossible for our species to complete. You're going to push us harder and harder, expecting us to break. Vex-9's mandibles were clicking rapidly. Now, a sign of severe agitation. And Martinez's green eyes were steady and utterly calm. And we're not going to break, sir. We're going to adapt. We're going to improvise. We're going to find ways to succeed that your textbooks say shouldn't be possible. Because that's what humans do. You're being absurdly overconfident. Am I? Sir, you said yourself that every species you've trained has eventually broken under your methods. But those species all had something to fall back on. Natural advantages, superior technology, whatever. When you took away their confidence, you took away everything. Martinez gestured to her fellow humans. What are you going to take away from us, sir? We never had anything to begin with. We've been making do with nothing but stubbornness and creativity for millennia. Thompson grinned. Plus, sir, there's something else you should probably know about humans. What now? We have a really bad habit of doing exactly what people tell us we can't do. Wilson nodded enthusiastically. It's like a compulsive behavior. Someone says, impossible, and we hear, challenge accepted. Martinez's smile grew wider. So, when you tell us we're too weak, too slow, too primitive to succeed here. She shrugged. Well, sir, you're basically issuing a challenge to an entire species that has never heard the word quit. Vex-9 looked around the training hall, suddenly feeling like he was the one being evaluated rather than doing the evaluating. The humans were all looking at him with expressions that mixed respect with something that made his exoskeleton itch. It was anticipation. I've been doing this for 300 years, he said weakly. And we've been human for 300,000 years, sir, Martinez replied. Don't push us, and we'll probably muddle through your program just like everyone else. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was still respectful, still proper, but there was steel underneath it that Vex-9 had never heard from any recruit of any species. But if you do push us, sir, if you really want to see what happens when humans get pushed? Martinez's smile was sharp as a blade. Well, that might be the last mistake you make as an instructor. The training hall was so quiet that the hum of the life support systems sounded like thunder. Above them, the observation windows were packed with witnesses from a dozen different species, all staring down at the unprecedented scene. Vex-9 stared at Martinez, his 6 eyes wide with something approaching fear. In 3 centuries of breaking recruits, no one had ever turned the tables on him like this. No one had ever made him feel like he was the one being tested. And for the first time in his long career, Instructor Vex-9 began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he had bitten off more than he could chew. The humans continued to stand at attention, waiting for his response, their eyes bright with that terrible human mixture of respect and challenge. It was going to be a very interesting 6 cycles. 3 days later, Instructor Vex-9 stood in his private office, staring at the training reports scattered across his desk. The betting pool had been wrong. Dead wrong. Not only had the humans not broken down, they were exceeding every metric he'd established for their species. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. The holographic image of Academy Commander Thrall-Ka materialized above his desk. her crystalline features reflecting the office lights. Vex-9, I've been reviewing your class progress reports. The human performance ratings are unusual. Commander, I can explain. Explain what? That your human recruits scored higher on the endurance trials than any previous class. That they completed the tactical simulation in record time? That they've somehow turned your infamous intimidation methods into a team-bonding exercise? Vex-9's mandibles clicked nervously. Commander, these humans are not behaving according to standard parameters. No, they're not. They're behaving better. Thralka's tone carried a warning. The Galactic Council is taking notice, Vex-9. Good notice. Don't mess this up. The hologram flickered out, leaving Vex-9 alone with his confusion and growing frustration. He activated his desk console and pulled up the surveillance footage from the past 3 days, fast-forwarding through the highlights. Day 1. The humans had tackled the obstacle course designed to humble new recruits. Instead of competing individually like every other species, they'd somehow turned it into a cooperative exercise. When Wilson couldn't make a particular jump, Thompson and Martinez had formed a human ladder. When the smallest human, a wiry man named Parker, couldn't reach a climbing hold, the others had literally thrown him to the next platform. Impossible, Vex-9 muttered, watching the footage. The exercise specifically forbids assistance. Day 2. Combat simulation against holographic enemies. The scenario was designed to be unwinnable, meant to teach recruits about acceptable losses and tactical retreat. The humans had not only won, they'd achieved 0 casualties through tactics that violated every established military doctrine. Instead of following proper formation, they'd moved like a pack, covering each other's weaknesses and creating opportunities that shouldn't have existed. Day 3. Individual psychological evaluation. Each recruit was subjected to personalized fear scenarios based on their species' known phobias. The humans had emerged from the chambers laughing and comparing notes like they'd just experienced an amusement park ride. Vex-9's primary arms slammed down on his desk. This was getting out of hand. A knock at his office door interrupted his brooding. Enter! Martinez stepped inside, still in her training uniform. Sir, you requested to see me? Sit. Vex-9 gestured to the chair across from his desk. We need to talk. Martinez settled into the chair with that same unsettling composure she'd shown from day 1. Is there a problem with my performance, sir? That's exactly the problem. There shouldn't be any performance to speak of. You should be washing out of this program along with the rest of your species. But we're not. No, you're not. And I want to know why. Martinez tilted her head slightly. Sir, with respect, we told you why on the first day. You just didn't believe us. Vex-9 leaned forward, his 6 eyes focusing intently on her face. Humor me. Explain it again. Which part? All of it. Start with why you're not afraid of me. Martinez was quiet for a moment, seemingly considering her words carefully. Sir, can I ask you something first? What? Have you ever been to Earth? No. Why would I visit a backwater planet? Then you've never seen what we call a honey badger. Vex-9's mandibles clicked impatiently. What does some random Earth creature have to do with anything? A honey badger is about the size of a small dog. Maybe 20 pounds. They have no natural armor, no enhanced speed, no special weapons. By every logical measure, they should be prey animals. And they regularly fight off lions, hyenas, and leopards. Creatures 10 times their size with natural weapons that could kill them instantly. That makes no sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Martinez smiled. That's because you're thinking like a civilized being, sir. You're assuming the honey badger evaluates the threat and makes a rational decision about whether to fight or flee. Don't they? No, sir. They don't evaluate anything. They see a threat, and they attack. Period. It doesn't matter if the threat is bigger, stronger, or better armed. Size, strength, natural advantages. None of that matters to a honey badger. What matters is that something is threatening them, and that makes them angry. Vex-9 felt a cold sensation in his thoracic cavity. You're saying humans are like these honey badgers? I'm saying we learned from them, sir. Along with every other creature on our planet that refused to accept its place in the food chain, Martinez leaned forward slightly. Sir, you keep trying to intimidate us by explaining how superior other species are. But you're missing the fundamental point about human psychology. Which is, we don't care. The simple statement hung in the air between them like a weapon. We don't care if the Corvani are stronger, Martinez continued. We don't care if the Zeltak are faster. We don't care if the Grimm were bred for war. When push comes to shove, none of that matters to us. How can it not matter? Because caring about odds is a luxury for species that have other options. We've never had other options. When a human is backed into a corner, we don't calculate probabilities or assess our chances of success. We just fight. Vex-9's secondary arms were twitching again. But surely you understand tactical realities. Of course we do. We're not stupid, sir. We understand exactly how outmatched we are in any given situation. We just don't let that stop us. That's completely irrational. Yes, it is, and that's what makes us dangerous. Martinez stood up and walked to the window overlooking the training grounds, where her fellow humans were running combat drills against holographic opponents twice their size. Sir, do you know what the other species do when you put them through impossible scenarios? They adapt their tactics to match the reality of the situation. Exactly. They accept the parameters of the problem and work within them. That's rational, logical, civilized behavior. Yes. Martinez turned back to face him. Humans don't accept parameters, sir. We rewrite them. That's impossible. Is it? Let me give you an example. Yesterday's combat simulation was designed to teach us about acceptable losses, correct? Vex-9 nodded reluctantly. The scenario assumed we would follow standard military doctrine. Maintain formation. Advance according to tactical principles. Accept that some casualties are inevitable in order to achieve the objective. That's correct tactical thinking. For civilized species, maybe. But we're barbarians, remember? We don't care about your doctrine. We care about bringing everyone home. Martinez moved back to the chair but didn't sit down. So, when your simulation presented us with an impossible tactical situation, we didn't try to solve it according to the rules. We ignored the rules entirely. The footage shows you somehow achieved 0 casualties. Because we treated it like what it was, sir. A problem that needed solving. Not a test with predetermined acceptable outcomes, but an actual problem with actual stakes. Vex-9's exoskeleton was beginning to flush again. You're telling me you succeeded by ignoring established military principles? We succeeded by remembering that the objective wasn't to follow principles, sir. The objective was to win. But the scenario was mathematically impossible to complete without casualties. Martinez's smile returned, sharp and unsettling. Sir, humans have a really bad habit of treating mathematically impossible as a starting point rather than a conclusion. That's absurd. Is it? Sir, by the mathematics available to our species in 1903, powered flight was impossible. The calculations proved it. We flew anyway. That's different. By the mathematics available to us in 1961, landing on our moon was impossible with existing technology. We did it anyway. You're cherry-picking examples. Am I? Sir, our entire history is full of things we did that our own experts said couldn't be done. We have a word for experts who tell us something is impossible. What word? Challenge. Vex-9 stood up abruptly, his full height casting a shadow across the office. This conversation is getting out of hand. You're a recruit, and I'm an instructor with 3 centuries of experience. Yes, sir, you are. And in those 3 centuries, how many species have you trained that ignored your authority the way we have? None! Because they understood proper military hierarchy. Exactly. Martinez's voice remained calm. They understood hierarchy. They accepted authority. They followed the rules. That's why your intimidation methods worked on them. My methods are time-tested. Your methods are designed for civilized beings, sir. Beings who can be reasoned with, who understand concepts like know your place and accept your limitations. Martinez took a step closer to Vex-9's desk. But we're not civilized, remember? You said so yourself. We're primitives, barbarians, walking disasters. I was trying to motivate you through constructive criticism. No, sir. You were trying to break our will through psychological intimidation. The same way you've broken every other species that's come through here. Vex-9's mandibles were clicking rapidly. And what if I was… Then you made a serious miscalculation, sir. How so? Martinez's green eyes locked onto his 6, and for a moment, Vex-9 felt like he was staring into the face of some ancient predator. Because you can't break something that was forged in fire, sir. The office fell silent except for the hum of environmental systems. Vex-9 found himself backing away from his own desk. What do you mean? I mean that every human in this academy is the product of the most brutal evolutionary selection process in known galactic history. Not just individual selection, sir, but species-wide selection. For 300,000 years, our environment tried to kill us. Predators tried to eat us. Disease tried to wipe us out. We tried to wipe ourselves out. Martinez moved around the desk, and Vex-9 realized with growing alarm that she was now between him and the door. Everything that could break a human has already tried, sir. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, wars, famines, floods. Our planet threw everything it had at us. And we're still here. What? What are you saying? I'm saying that your psychological pressure tactics are like trying to intimidate a mountain with a gentle breeze, sir. We've been through worse. Much worse. Vex-9's back was now against the office wall. This is highly inappropriate behavior for a recruit. Yes, it is, Martinez agreed cheerfully. But here's the thing about inappropriate behavior, sir. Sometimes it gets results that appropriate behavior can't. I could have you court-martialed for insubordination. You could try, sir. But that would require explaining to your superiors how a primitive human recruit managed to corner you in your own office using nothing but conversation. Vex-9's 6 eyes were wide, with something approaching panic. What do you want from me? Nothing, sir. I just wanted to make sure you understood something important. Which is… Martinez's smile was cold and predatory. You told us not to push you, sir. But you've been pushing us since day one, trying to break us, trying to make us quit, trying to prove we don't belong here. That's standard training protocol. For other species, maybe. But we're not other species. Martinez's voice dropped to a whisper. We're humans. And humans have a very simple rule about being pushed. What rule? Push us. And we push back. Harder. Vex-9's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. Are you threatening me? No, sir. I'm educating you. About what? Martinez stepped closer, and Vex-9 pressed himself harder against the wall. About what happens when someone keeps pushing a species that has never learned to quit. I don't understand. Sir, you've spent 3 days trying to break us, trying to prove we're inferior, trying to make us accept our limitations, trying to put us in our place. That's my job. And it's worked on every other species you've trained because they had something to lose. Pride, status, natural advantages, whatever. Take those away, and they break. Martinez was now close enough that Vex-9 could see his own reflection in her human eyes. But we never had anything to lose, sir. We never had pride in our natural abilities because we don't have any. We never had status because we've always been the underdogs. We never had advantages because we've always made do without them. So there's nothing for you to take away from us, sir? Nothing to break. You might as well try to intimidate gravity or frighten mathematics. Vex-9's voice was barely a whisper. What are you? Martinez's smile was gentle now, almost pitying. We're what happens when evolution decides to create a species that's too stubborn to die, sir. She stepped back, giving him room to breathe. And now you've spent 3 days trying to prove to us that we can't succeed here. Trying to make us believe we don't belong, that we're inferior, that we should quit while we still have our dignity. I was following standard procedures. You were making the same mistake everyone makes when they first encounter humans, sir. What mistake? Martinez moved back toward the door, her posture relaxing into something resembling normal military bearing. You assumed we were rational. Aren't you? Sometimes. When it suits us. But when someone keeps pushing us, when someone keeps telling us we can't do something. She shrugged. Rational goes out the window pretty quickly. Vex-9 slumped against the wall, his exoskeleton pale with stress. What happens now? Now? Now you have a choice, sir. What choice? Martinez paused at the door. You can keep trying to break us with your traditional methods. Keep pushing, keep intimidating, keep trying to prove we don't belong here. And if I do? Martinez's green eyes were bright with something that made Vex-9's sensory organs scream danger warnings. Then you'll find out what 300,000 years of evolutionary pressure can produce when it's finally given a target worthy of its attention. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Or, Vex-9 whispered, or you can accept that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy's newest species might have something unique to offer. Something that doesn't fit in your textbooks or training manuals. What could humans possibly offer that superior species cannot? Martinez's smile returned, warm and terrible. The one thing that no other civilized species can provide, sir. Which is the absolute refusal to accept defeat, no matter how certain that defeat appears to be. She opened the door, then paused one final time. Think about it, sir. In a galaxy full of rational, civilized, logical species, how useful might it be to have allies who are too stupid to know when they're beaten? The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving Instructor Vex-9 alone in his office, pressed against the wall, staring at the space where she'd been standing. For the first time in 3 centuries, he was genuinely afraid of his own students. Outside in the corridor, Martinez rejoined her fellow humans, who had been waiting patiently for her meeting with the instructor to conclude. How did it go? Thompson asked. "I think we have an understanding now," Martinez replied. Wilson grinned. "Did you have to explain the honey badger thing?" "Among other things." Parker, the smallest of the group, looked concerned. "Think we went too far?" Martinez considered this for a moment. "Maybe. But he needed to understand that we're not like his previous students." "And if he decides to really push back?" Thompson asked. Martinez's expression grew serious. "Then he'll learn why every predator on Earth eventually decided that humans weren't worth the trouble." They walked toward the training halls in comfortable silence, unaware that their conversation was being monitored by security systems throughout the academy. In the observation center, instructors and administrators from a dozen different species watched the human recruits with new eyes. The betting pools had been quietly dissolved. New protocols were being drafted. And in his office, Instructor Vex-9 slowly slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, staring at nothing and replaying Martinez's final words over and over in his mind. "Too stupid to know when they're beaten." For some reason, that didn't sound like an insult anymore. It sounded like the most terrifying military doctrine he'd ever encountered. The academy would never be the same.